Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here for you guys. And basically he's saying, every time I work out, I crave sweets really bad. I want to go binge on junk food, binge on sweets, binge on sugar, things like that. Now I know training can increase your metabolism, and I know that you can benefit from carbs post-workout, but is this me just using an excuse because I really like sweets? Am I just using this as an excuse to eat them? Or is this my body actually telling me something? So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this, because this is actually a really good question. People need to understand that cravings don't always go hand in hand with your body necessarily needing something. There's a lot of other psychological reasons and even hormonal reasons why you might crave something. Now that being said, we could argue about pregnant women in that quite a bit, but that's a totally separate argument. Most of us training here are not pregnant women. But I will say, as a general rule, whatever a pregnant woman is craving, you probably don't want to get between her and it and argue with her as to whether she needs it or not. Probably not a good idea. Different topic, though. Most of the time, cravings, though, are going to be hormonal in nature or some sort of addiction in nature. So we probably need to address sugar addiction in here a little bit. And we need to address kind of what your body needs and what's going on kind of post-workout a little bit. Now, that being said, is it probably just a sugar addiction? Yeah, it's probably just a sugar addiction, and then you're using it as an excuse. However, your body does benefit from carbs post-workout. Not saying you always necessarily need a lot of carbs post-workout, but that is, if meal timing matters, and it matters very, very little. It's been overhyped. Meal timing matters just a little bit, not as much as it's been made out to be. But ideally, I mean, if you were going to pick a time of day that you absolutely wanted to eat sweets because you're craving them, or a bunch of even faster absorbing carbs, post-workout's probably the best time to get them in. Let's just be honest here. That's when you're more likely to actually get some sort of anabolic benefit out of them between training sessions. Post-workout, or if you're going to train twice a day in between training sessions, is a big deal. Glycogen replenishment in between sessions for people who are training twice a day with any sort of different activity. Even people who are mixing weights and cardio or weights and conditioning or whatever, getting carbs in between is a really big deal. It's important at that point. For people who only train once a day, meal timing is a little less important. But if you absolutely have to get something like that in, particularly something sugary or refined carbs, post-workout's the best time to get it. Now, what we need to also address, though, and you need to consider, though, as far as replenishing muscle glycogen goes, calorie for calorie, refined sugars are not necessarily the best choice for that. And you do need to keep that in mind. Because if you are trying to replenish muscle glycogen, and keep in mind though, guys, it's not that hard to replenish. You don't burn as much muscle glycogen as the muscle magazines have led you to believe when you train. It isn't anywhere near as much, but it can be beneficial to replenish it a little bit. But the thing that you need to consider is that glucose-based carbohydrates are generally going to do a better job of it. And most of your refined sugars are not glucose-based. They're going to be roughly 50% fructose, 50% glucose, depending on what type of sugar you're taking in. Now, like white rice, white bread, white pasta, things like that, those are going to be pure glucose. They're going to be superior at glycogen replenishment. And they're going to be superior training fuel. And the reason for that, and you have to look at it this way, is fructose doesn't automatically go to your muscles or your bloodstream. Your body can't utilize fructose in the form that it's found in nature. So when your body breaks it up, the glucose molecules from all other carbs that are basically glucose-based go straight to your bloodstream. They can go straight to tissues, they can go straight to your brain, they can go straight to your organs, they can go straight to your muscles. Fructose isn't metabolized by most of the body in the form that it's found in nature. It has to go through your liver. All right, your liver then processes that fructose. Your liver makes that fructose into something viable. It makes it into glucose. So accordingly, because it goes to the liver, and the liver has a very large, basically, storage capacity for glucose, or for glycogen more specifically, which is, again, a more complex form of glucose. Glucose is bonded together to make these glycogen molecules. Your liver has a high capacity for that. So since the fructose has to go through your liver to be processed, it's going to tend to keep most of it there. So when you think about it this way, 200 calories of table sugar or high fructose corn syrup really only about 100 calories of it's going to be immediately available to go to your bloodstream for other purposes. All right, whereas in 200 calories of carbs, like starchier carbs from even rice or potatoes or anything else, all 200 calories of that's going to hit the bloodstream. So when you think of it in those terms, it's going to be more readily usable. And the other thing that you've got to look at with fructose there is that in the long term, excessive chronic fructose intake, because again, it's got to go through the liver. The liver has to process it. Large amounts of it over time can strain the liver. It can overwork the liver. And in fact, the process of converting fructose into glucose is a very similar process by the liver of converting alcohol, right? Of converting alcohol into something more usable in some ways and filtering it out of your body. So what you actually find is that as far as stress put upon the liver, fructose from these refined sugars can be as stressful on the liver as drinking, small amounts of alcohol. And if you were to, just like if you drink too much alcohol, what happens? If you chronically drink excessive amounts of alcohol, it puts excessive strain on your liver. It is a mild toxin, all right? Alcohol is a mild toxin in the body. It's not a super strong toxin, but it's mild. But if you drink enough of it, it will cause problems in your liver. It can cause fatty liver. It can cause elevated liver enzymes. It can cause problems for you there. We're not even talking about the intoxication aspect or any of that, just the effect on the liver, the body's primary filtration organ. Fructose, when taken to excess chronically, can do the same thing. It can cause fatty liver. It can cause elevated liver enzymes. It could damage your liver over time. And fatty liver, as you know, is associated with other chronic medical conditions. You start getting a fatty liver, you start becoming more at risk of various cardiovascular diseases. And that can come from both alcohol, excessive alcohol consumption, along with excessive fructose consumption. And that's another interesting point, is that fructose, just like alcohol, can be toxic to the liver in excess. Alcohol is also addictive for many people, right? Well, it turns out that fructose is also addictive for many people. And what we found is that people who have a tendency towards addiction, people with certain problems with the way their brain processes dopamine, the same people who are prone to alcoholism, genetically prone to alcoholism, are going to have certain sugar addiction problems. So they can get addicted to sugar. It's kind of a coincidence there, a strange coincidence, because you have these two different substances that have a different effect on the liver, or similar effect on the liver, and they're both physically addictive. And we can see that people who have taken large amounts of refined sugars and get all that fructose hits them, we see their brain light up in a way that's very similar to the way some people's brains lights up when they're when they're addicted to drugs. And interesting phenomenon. So sugar addiction actually is a real thing. It's measurable. We can see it. It's not as bad as a lot of other drug addictions. It's not as dangerous, but it is there. It is real. And it's been noted in the research. And that's the real problem with getting kind of addicted to sugar and feeling you need to take in a bunch of it. The thing is, if you're sedentary, it's really a problem. But if you're active, you're someone who works out. The biggest problem with sugar and sugar addictions is that we've noted that people who are addicted to sugar have these effects on them. When they consume sugar, they get hungrier again sooner than other people after a similar calorie meal. And they tend to eat more at their next meal. So your real concern with sugar, as long as, you're not eating excessive amounts of it, the liver issue doesn't really happen. It's when you consume excessive amounts of it, particularly excessive amounts of it when you're sedentary. The biggest risk with sugar is that it can lead to you craving other foods on top of it. It can lead to you craving even more sugary foods, fatty foods, things like that, that can make you overeat. So the biggest concern with it is the propensity for you to overeat. So if you do find yourself wanting to consume sugar post-workout and you consume a bunch of sugar post-workout, it's probably okay from a performance and health perspective if it's a reasonable amount immediately post-workout. But what you would need to watch for is, what does it do to your cravings at your next meal? Because that's the interesting thing that's been noted with refined sugars in the research, is that people who are addicted to it or have a tendency towards that, when they consume it, they get hungrier than most people later afterwards. They overeat more at their next meal. And if that causes you to gain excessive weight or to be obese, that's going to negatively affect your health, and it's something you need to be aware of and you need to think about. So I would say to the person with this issue, if you're fit and you're active and you lift weights and you do cardio and you're not really obese from anything, it's probably okay. You're probably in the clear. You can get away with eating that sugar post-workout. If you feel that you have to have it, that would probably be the best time to do it. But you need to monitor what's happening with your appetite. If it's making you overeat a lot at the next meal after that, and you find yourself gaining unwanted body fat as a result of that, you need to seriously consider maybe tapering off that sugar. Maybe you need to skip that at that point. And that's something that's a very, very individual thing. For some people, they could have that craving and handle it post-workout and be fine and keep themselves at a normal weight because their physical activity burns through it. And that's the thing that you need to be aware of with the negative effects of these refined sugars and sweets, is their propensity to make you gain unwanted body fat. And gaining that unwanted body fat along with the fructose intake tends to be what exacerbates the problems from it. But if it can be kept in moderation and you're not gaining extra fat from the appetite from it, you're not consuming excessive amounts of it, it's actually perfectly fine. It's not going to harm your health. It's when it causes you to crave too many other foods. You crave too much, you overeat as a result of it, and you start gaining unwanted body fat, and you start gaining excessive body fat, and you start drifting into the obese area. That's when it really becomes a problem. That's when your health is at danger. And again, that's an individual thing, because some people won't have that happen. Other people can control their appetite with it. So you have to assess that for yourself and look at it and say, okay, what is this doing to the rest of my habits? What's it doing to the rest of my pattern of eating and my lifestyle? And if it's manageable and you're able to out-train whatever cravings you're having from it, the extra calories you're getting from it, you're able to out-train it and burn it off as fuel, it's okay. You're going to be fine. You're not going to hurt yourself doing this. It will be okay. But if it's making you gain extra fat, it's going to be a problem for your health in the long term. And so you've got to look at it that way. And if that's the case, then you probably need to cut it out. If you're becoming a major sugar addict, just like if someone was becoming an alcoholic and they're addicted to alcohol, and it's causing them problems in their life or with their health or their social life in any way, it's time for them to cut the alcohol out of their life and walk away from it, to join a group to deal with that, like Alcoholics Anonymous or some of these groups to help people completely get off of alcohol permanently. There are groups that help people with that, and they need to consider that at that point. Well, the sugar could be the same way at that point. If it's negatively affecting your health in that way, you probably need to cut it out of your life, because you don't need that in your life if it's going to harm your health. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.